What's up everyone, welcome to today's video, welcome to the GamerDad channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So for those of you who've been following, Ubisoft seems to have been silent for the past few months. It appears that some of the announcements that were made were in a sense kind of left to just kind of dwindle and fade away. A lot has been going on in the gaming scene and it seems like 2022 and 2023 is going to return to a regular cycle for delivery of new video games. Now, on Ubisoft's agenda, from what we're seeing and some of the rumors we're hearing, it appears that Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is getting a release date for sometime in November, just ahead of the movie release. So I think this is probably likely. This is the likelihood that both the studio developing the video game, that is Ubisoft Massive, and the studio developing the movie, that's Lightstorm Studios, have probably sought to have as their entire window. So their publicity, marketing, any kind of awareness that they're making known about these two IPs will be able to piggyback off of one another and potentially boost sales, or I would say viewership, for the movie and then sales for the video game. So this is quite exciting for those who've been looking forward to these IPs, even though for the most part, there are many that still swear till this day that they'll probably never have anything to do with this Avatar game. There seems to be so far a demand for a movie like this because some people want to see something new from James Cameron. And even though the franchise is still over a decade old, it still has a fan base that would love to see what they're able to present. Now, this is not necessarily only the thing of focus. A lot of other games that Ubisoft has been working on are also probably on the block for them to be revealed. One of them being the new Assassin's Creed game that they've been talking about, that's been in the whispers. And there were also rumors about some kind of a free-to-play Assassin's Creed type game, but I don't necessarily think that will probably be on their forefront. A lot of their really interesting free-to-play games have taken the back burner, as seen in X-Defiant, as also seen in the Ghost Recon Frontlines, and they haven't necessarily been talking too much about those, except maybe for the Division Heartland, which already has a base and an audience that is more than likely accepting of that particular game format. So I think what we're probably going to be seeing is the Avatar game and then perhaps another Assassin's Creed game that's probably going to be following their biannual release of the franchise titles or whatever it is. But this is actually pretty interesting because there also are other game titles that people would love to see continue on, like Immortals Fenyx Rising, which actually was a remarkable game in its own right. I mean, if you look and read the reviews, you see that that game was actually well accepted. A lot of reviewers thought it was a very interesting way for Ubisoft to bring a video game of theirs to light without having to rehash something that was pretty old. Because if you think about Ubisoft games, a lot of them really do follow one another, especially in the Tom Clancy universe, the Assassin's Creed universe, and so on. And then you also are looking at, say, potentially that Splinter Cell game that's in the remake might be getting some news to the community of gamers, because it was first announced that they were going to be remaking this original Splinter Cell game, and the Tom Clancy community is more than likely looking forward to seeing this become a reality and actually knowing, or at least getting some level of commitment, that Ubisoft and its studios are working to get this game delivered. Now, on some other fronts, there's still other games that are quite interesting that are still under wraps, and we don't know if we're going to be hearing anything about them. One of them is the Star Wars project that's being also developed by Ubisoft Massive, and so far so good. It appears that that project, even though when it was announced about last year, many still said that the game was in its most infant stage, and we haven't necessarily seen anything. But is it possible that we might see some kind of a teaser or a reveal or a trailer or something like that? I guess that's up to the studio to determine if that's something they want to show so early. But if they announce a game, usually I think you're probably 4 or 5 years away from that game. If you kind of want to maybe compare notes or compare how they've actually done things like this before, you'll know that Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora was actually announced in 2017, whereby they had probably already started a little bit more work on it, but it still had that 5-year development process or completion process before we got this 2022 release date. But if they show the Star Wars game, then it might be a thing where they probably just want to get the information out there, because the Star Wars video game development scene is actually quite competitive right now. Now, Star Wars Jedi Survivor is actually going to be coming out very soon, which I think is probably Q1 of next year. Then you also have Respawn working on, I think, 2 other Star Wars titles. You have the studio that did Detroit Become Human working on their Star Wars title. And perhaps you're probably going to start seeing a little bit more information about other Star Wars games that are in the works. And so I think Ubisoft might be in a position where they want to get ahead or get in front of this and start to advertise their own properties right now, because it's, in a sense, a little bit logical in my opinion. But again, like I said, it's one of those things where the game might be so far out, it might not necessarily warrant any kind of exposure at the moment. And then finally, before I even end this video, I hope to see something regarding Tom Clancy's The Division coming from Ubisoft Massive. Now, Ubisoft Massive has been the studio that has made The Division and The Division 2 game. They're not doing the Division Heartland project. For those of you who may be wondering, that's actually being handled by another Ubisoft studio. But there are rumors, there's chatter within the community that there's another Division game possibly in the works. And everyone in the community will probably like to know if that project is in the making, or what kind or nature of project it is at this point in time, if they're willing to share. Now, if they're not willing to share, maybe everything is still in the most infant stage, then I guess that's a whole different ball game. But it's, in our mind, a place where a lot of the devs that had done the Division 1 went over to do the Avatar game. And once this Avatar game comes out, it appears that they're going to haul them back into a Division cycle, and then another game is probably going to be made for that franchise, because The Division is one of Ubisoft Massive's biggest game. I don't know if many of you know, but I see that game getting possibly 4 or 5 games in its own arsenal. But anyways, these are future plans that we're probably looking forward to. We don't know what Ubisoft is definitely going to be dropping, other than some obvious games that are probably going to be coming out this year, but we look forward to some surprises as they go to their Gamescom conference. And then maybe they might do a Ubisoft Forward event sometime maybe in September. That's if they're willing to. I hope they do, so that they can have the time to showcase a whole bunch of other things. There also are a lot of other video games that have been in the works for multiple years that have still not made it out of development, like Beyond Good and Evil Part 2. These are some really interesting, titles that people have been wanting to see. And we also think maybe we'll see a little bit more about Skull and Bones. Don't care about the game, honestly, but I'm thinking maybe the fans that are looking forward to it will get the opportunity to see a little bit more before time goes any further. So thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys so much, and hopefully we'll talk very soon. Peace out.